Good morning. It is a privilege and an honor to be here. I came and met with Deborah a couple of weeks back, and she brought me into the sanctuary, and it was empty. It was beautiful, but it was empty. And I walked in this morning, and I was overjoyed at the beauty of it. And then everybody else came in, and now I'm just thrilled. The Spirit has made this place alive. It's a beautiful sanctuary, and you're a beautiful congregation. And I am so thrilled to be here this morning with you, worshiping together. Over 40 years ago, I made the decision to get in the boat with Jesus. I cannot say that the journey has been easy. It has not. But as I look back, I can see that the difficult times have often been the times of my greatest spiritual growth. Over the years, I have changed. I have become more like my teacher, Jesus. My relationships have improved. I am not as easily influenced by the storms of life. Material possessions have become much less significant to me. 4 years ago, I received a call to ministry. I've completed my training, and I hope to be accepted into ordination by the UCC this year. My husband will attest that my ministry fills my life. All other things seem to have fallen away. As I studied this passage this morning to prepare, I saw more than a fishing story. I saw more than a calling of the disciple Peter. I saw my own story. I recognized the journey, the steps that go into making a disciple. We are all disciples of Christ on our journey. To bring you a message, the making of a disciple. A disciple is a follower or an adherent of a teacher. Would you mind if I calm down here to be with you? A disciple is a follower or an adherent of a teacher. Being a disciple means more than just being a student, somebody who learns lessons. Being a disciple requires an intimate relationship with the teacher. A relationship that, over the course of time, allows the disciple to remake themselves into the image of their teacher. Discipleship is not easy. A disciple needs to trust and obey their teacher. They need to be willing to put themselves constantly into a situation where they're challenged and they're guided, knowing that eventually this will lead to their transformation. I'm at that age of my life where some glasses, no glasses. Before I became in ministry, I taught piano lessons. And adults and children would come into my home, and they would sit at my piano, and they'd open their music books, and they would play for me. And I would guide them and give them new knowledge. Then they would take that knowledge back home with them and practice, hopefully. And they would come back the following week, and I would give them a different lesson. Now, learning and knowledge are just one step of discipleship. Discipleship requires a long-term commitment to the teacher and to the process. And it requires an unwavering willingness to follow, to learn, and over time, to be changed. The man that taught me how to play piano had a student that lived with him. This student was very advanced and aspired to be a concert pianist. So my teacher brought him into his home, and they talked together, and they ate together, they shopped together. He helped him do his homework, and all the time, he was listening to him. He was listening to him play his piano, and he was challenging him, and correcting him, and guiding him, and encouraging him. Over the years of their working together, this student came to play just as beautifully as my teacher. He came to understand everything that my teacher knew. Discipleship requires not only intimacy, but obedience and consistency over time. Our passage this morning gives us a snapshot, sort of a synopsis of the discipleship journey of Simon Peter. Simon's discipleship to Jesus began on a sunny, warm morning on the shores of Lake Gennesaret. Simon was a Galilean fisherman, and he'd been out fishing all night long. He was cleaning his nets on the beach. Hearing voices, he looked up, and he saw Jesus talking to a group of people off in the distance. He smiled. He knew Jesus. Jesus had come to his house only the night before. He touched his mother-in-law and removed a fever from her. Simon was impressed by Jesus. He respected him. The group inched closer to Simon. In an effort to hear what Jesus was saying, the crowd pressed in on him, and in an effort not to get walked on, Jesus would step back. As this dance repeated itself, eventually Jesus found himself at the water's edge, his heels in the water, the hem of his garment being gently lapped by the waves. There were 2 boats on the shore, and he got into Simon's. Looking at Simon, his request was simple. He said, "Will you be willing to put out a little bit from shore?" It was a straightforward request. It wasn't anything too difficult, but for Simon in that moment, it was just not a good time. As a matter of fact, it was pretty inconvenient. He'd been working hard all night. He was hungry. He was tired. He still had nets to clean. On top of all of that, he hadn't caught any fish. He had nothing to show for his efforts. Can you empathize with Simon? Overworked, underpaid, overtired, overwhelmed. Life often demands more than we can give. It's hard to find time for the things that are important. The first step in discipleship, which I'm sure everyone here has taken, is making time to be available. Simon had to make the choice, put down his nets, and get in the boat with Jesus. A disciple needs to find a way to hear and to do the Word of God. Simon made the choice to get into the boat. After Jesus had finished speaking to the crowd, he turned to Simon and he said, "Put out into deep water and let your nets down for a catch." Now you notice that the first time Jesus spoke to Simon, he asked him, would he be willing? But not this time. He said, "Put out into deeper water and let down your nets." The second step of discipleship requires of us. It requires that we do some work. It requires that we do the kind of work that's going to lead to our transformation. The work that Jesus asked Simon was to go fishing in the middle of the day. Any fishermen? Okay. Oh, I'm not a fisherman, but I know that the best time for fishing is not the middle of the day. Right? I remember my dad teaching me when I was little. He said, fish like bugs. When the bugs are out, the fish are out. No bugs, no fish. The best time for fishing is in the evening or in the early morning. Jesus was not asking Simon to take him out for a fishing trip. He had something far greater in mind. He was discipling Simon. Jesus was asking Simon to do something new, to break out of his comfort zone, to try something that he had never done before. Jesus was challenging Simon to have faith and to obey his words, even if they felt uncomfortable. Even if they pushed the limits of his understanding. Even if they went against the way things had always been done. It wasn't easy for Simon to do the work that Jesus asked him to do. Jesus' commands made him uncomfortable. They were not what he naturally wanted to hear. And they were not what he naturally wanted to do. They were counterintuitive. But Jesus' words are counterintuitive, right? Love your enemies. Pray for those that persecute you. If somebody takes your coat, give them your shirt as well. If somebody asks you to go a mile, go 2. Jesus' command required Simon to question the way he had always done things. The way everybody had always done things, perhaps for a very long time. Jesus' ways then and now introduce an alternative wisdom. They require a different way of thinking, a new mindset. Jesus challenged Simon then, and Jesus challenges us today to have the courage to think differently. It was Simon's commitment to discipleship that over time enabled him to change his thinking, to overcome his defenses, to quiet his doubt. Yet, if you say so, I will let down the nets. Luke shows us what it looks like to be a disciple. And Luke encourages discipleship by telling us that the end result, the catch, is awesome. It's beyond our wildest dreams. It's abundant. It's overwhelming. It exceeds everything we could ever hope for. They caught so many fish that their nets were breaking. Additional boats were called over. And these boats were filled up to near sinking. And then Luke tells us, Simon saw. This is the only time, he said Simon Peter saw it. This is the only time that Luke uses the words Simon Peter. It's the only time he calls this disciple Simon Peter. Prior to this point, this disciple has always been referred to as Simon. And after this story, Luke will only refer to this disciple as Peter. But at this point, and only at this point, Luke says, Simon Peter saw it. Luke is using a literary technique here that helps us to understand that he's saying discipleship literally transforms us. It gives us a new identity. In my earlier story about the piano teacher, this moment where Simon sees it would correspond to the point where the student actually was able to do all that the teacher was able to do. The moment that he saw the way his teacher saw, that he understood what his teacher understood, that he was able to do what his teacher could do. Likewise, Luke is saying here that Simon, at this moment, sees it. He understands what Jesus understands. He's able to do what Jesus does. And he sees as Jesus sees. In this moment, in this last phase of discipleship, all the pieces have come together for Simon. Simon glimpses the power and the vastness of God. And in contrast, is exposed to his own insignificance and vulnerability. He falls on his knees before Jesus and he says, "Go away from me, Lord, for I am a sinful man." This sense of knowing, this seeing oneself in the context of the infinite, is also captured in our first reading this morning by Isaiah. As Isaiah tells us, as Isaiah responds to his encounter with the living God, he says, "Woe is me, I am undone, I am lost, for I am a man of unclean lips, and I live among a people of unclean lips. But my eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts." Simon returns to the beach, a changed man. No longer the busy, anxious fisherman, concerned with his fears, his doubts, his desires, his anxieties, and his issues. He has discovered the vast riches that come as a result of being a disciple of Jesus Christ. He leaves all of his worldly goods on the beach, and he pursues that which has truth.